You're watching a clip of a 2011 ET disclosure by Saeed David Farman, New Hope for Humanity Alienshift Group, with Andrew Basiago and Alfred Webre on January 11/11. Please go to our website alienshift.com to watch the whole full hours, 4 hours, 4 hours of 3 parts of this video with other speakers too on ET disclosure, or alienevent.com. Thank you for your interest and support, and here is the clip.
I think if we look at the work of the leading ufologists of the last several generations, what we see is the fact that we've been in contact and indeed in liaison with a number of extraterrestrial species. And in the main, they haven't represented a military threat as much as they've represented a political, a philosophical, a social, and a cultural threat. And so I think we have to avoid both of those absolutist, catastrophic views.
Mr. Basiago, universe is a big place because we haven't been hit by, I'm not saying we will be hit. That was one timeline we are looking at. Because we haven't been hit for 100,000 years, doesn't mean we're not going to be hit next 100,000 years. So it's a lot of possibilities.
Right, and if you're going to craft a planetary defense posture worthy of an interplanetary civilization, you're going to have to acknowledge that we're dealing with the United Nations of the cosmos. In the same way that an individual or a nation state governs itself best by embracing the reality of friends, neutrals, and enemies, we have to apply that same standard to the extraterrestrial species and civilizations that we're going to be encountering in outer space or even here on our planet. Because to do otherwise would be inimical to our own interests, just as it would be internationally. If the United States or Canada or any other country was to view every other potential faction and nation state as an enemy worthy of an aggressive defense posture, that would be socially suicidal. The same thing occurs when we see the twisted individuals like the shooter here in the Arizona massacre. That was an individual who was so fearful of others that he was capable of mowing down 18 living, loving, warm fellow human beings, even a 9-year-old child who had her whole life to live. And so I think in furtherance of our interests, as we advance the truth movement's focus on secret government, we have to work at disenthrallment from that catastrophic, pessimistic view of extraterrestrial species, or we may literally find ourselves in a warfare situation with off-planet cultures that very well could have become friends and allies.
Yeah, exactly. It all depends how our leaders will interact with off-world entities. So, in other words, if President Eisenhower shook their hand, that was a good gesture. And there were 4 or 5 races they contacted at the same time on the table, according to what I hear. So at this moment, don't go, guys, 5 minutes, I want to play something, if you don't mind. Do you mind?
Not at all, David. David, I wanted to make some parting thoughts to the citizenship issue, because the theme of tonight's presentation was about citizen action in working extraterrestrial disclosure. And I kind of take a middle view here, because I'm not preparing for catastrophe, but I'm preparing for a significant fight here, politically and culturally, over the destiny of our planet.
That's what I'm saying right now. If you listen, 5 minutes, don't go. Hold on, please.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silent, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. This administration intends to be candid about its errors, for as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Well, bravo. God bless President Kennedy.
Right, James, are we still on?
Yes, sir, you're on. Did you like the speech?
Well, I love that. I always love the rhetoric of President Kennedy. He was a great man and a great leader, and I think we were really hurt internationally by his early demise. But I would point out Germain to that speech. That was really John F. Kennedy as a Cold Warrior talking about the abuses of the former Soviet Union, not the international oligarchy or Illuminati, as it's often attributed. We have to be historically based here and recognize that he was continuing his pattern of being a Cold Warrior as he had been during the election of 1960 in that speech. But